That sounds really exciting.
Oh,
Actually,
thank
you
you.
know what? As much as I feel like he is he is making a mess here, I would not be opposed to him
Sidebar
calling
died.
in. So I am going to try to keep the lines open for a little while, uh,
Really?
to get this guy to call. I'm gonna request or refresh this. He's gonna call in. I'm really hoping, Sky, if you want to call in, if you're listening, it's you Skype, username Scope the Ghost, one word. I'm really excited to hear.
Alright, hey, I love you guys very much. I'll be back in a bit, okay?
Okay.
Good luck.
Channel and let them know. Line right here. Hey, is this Destiny? Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is him. What's up, dude?
Okay, well, I just want you to know I've had your channel open in the background, and I have not been. I don't have the audio on because I'm broadcasting here to people that are in the Twitch Plays Pokemon chat room. But I'm really excited that you called because I want to find out from your perspective what's going on and why this is happening.
Sure. Originally I loaded the stream. I saw a lot of people. I mean, I've been following this for like the past week, but I was streaming a little bit of StarCraft today. I had a few people, and I wondered if we had enough people to sway the influence from the Anarchy side to the Democracy side. I was just kind of curious. And as soon as we started voting, it looked like we had enough people to do it. And then a whole bunch of people started to pick up on it. They started to post on Reddit about it. And it got kind of interesting. I don't know. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay, well, I had kind of interpreted this as I just want you to know I'm not a longtime Twitch user. I don't really have a background in Twitch. I'm aware of it. I have some games that like I've played StarCraft. I've played Minecraft. I have that understanding of what it is. But I was not really a Twitch user until Twitch Plays Pokemon happened. And being that I'm currently working, I'm in game design. I'm in the final semester of my master's program at Purdue University for doing game design, and I'm working a great deal in game research, and I really see Twitch Plays Pokemon as being a major shift in how people are playing games, and I find it to be a fairly important event, especially considering like every time that somebody makes any type of innovation, like Notch with Minecraft, people try to find ways to integrate that into their game. Even Skyrim was trying to find ways to integrate Minecraft into their game design. So I see Twitch Plays Pokemon as being a possible major influence in the direction that gaming is going. So I see this as being a relatively big event. So I started this radio channel as kind of a dedication to find out, that this is what's happening right now. There are people that have been saying, and I don't know how wholeheartedly I agree with this, but people are saying this is our Woodstock for our generation. Like 80,000 people all getting together and doing the same thing and being really nostalgic about it is kind of interesting. But when I saw people start, I found out about your push because we happened to be doing a democracy push on this radio station right at the same time that you were doing that, and I think I was thinking that we were having an effect because I was seeing your viewers and you were seeing our viewers. So somebody was just calling in and being like, "Hey, it's not all us, man. There's this guy trying to release Bird Jesus." So um, I immediately opened it up and I saw it as being. I kind of interpreted it based on what I had seen before. There were there were some people that were saying Twitch is kind of a little bit repulsed with Twitch Plays Pokemon because it's generating such interest, and there are a lot of people that are feeling like Twitch is purely for MLG. It's for people that are really good at gaming and they want attention for that or they want credit for that, and Twitch Plays Pokemon kind of cheapens all of that. So is that where you're coming from, or are you just genuinely trying to get in on what's happening?
Holy shit, there was like so much said there.
Sorry. I've been doing this for a while. I'm very caffeinated.
Sure. I guess for the ending part, I'm usually one of the people that people complain about when they talk about content that cheapens Twitch because usually I do things more on the entertaining side of things. I'm a pretty good player at StarCraft, like top, like I could beat all of your friends at Star, like that kind of player, but not like I could go to a tournament and win it, if that makes sense. So
Sure.
I'm pretty good at most of the games I play, but I'm not like a professional player at the moment. I was in the past, but I'm not anymore. I'm not attacking this with like any kind of malicious intent, and I really haven't been at all. Like I think that this is really cool. I think it's really funny. There's a ton of like really good OC that's made on the Twitch Plays StarCraft, or I'm sorry, holy shit, or on the Twitch Plays Pokemon subreddit.
Sure.
And I can't even imagine. I'm sure there's probably a 4chan thread up. I don't know if it would be at V or VG or what, where there's probably shit being posted too. In fact, the subreddit content might actually come from there. I'm sorry if it does. I don't actually follow any of this on 4chan. So no, I don't have like any malicious intent towards anything. I just think it's really funny, and I think that I mean it's all really interested in me. The question when I originally came into this, the question was, do I have enough viewers to push this towards democracy? Because if I did, it's the concept of an organized group of people entering an anarchy-like situation and using that organized group of people to kind of take the reins of the chaos, you know, for like your own advantage is like a really interesting thing to me. And once I found out that we could do it, then I kind of wondered, with all the publicity and all the shit that's been going on with this game, if we were to kill Bird Jesus, like, what would the effect of that be? Like, would people be mad that somebody abused their position of power to try and kill Bird Jesus, which has become kind of symbolic of this whole thing? Would people be excited that it was possible that somebody could step in and do it? Would people be angry and they would feel like the rules need to be amended? We really need to get rid of democracy. I don't know. Like, there's like there's a ton of implications. Even if all of the fallout was negative and somebody showed up at my house and killed me and my entire family tomorrow, I still think it would be really interesting just to see what would happen if it actually happened. You know, like, that's interesting to me.
It is a volatile culture, and it's happening right now, and it's interesting to see what happens and what the effect is of that. But two things about it. One, if you've been following, there's this whole anarchy democracy thing going on. At one point, the actual stream owner stepped in and gave people an option to use democracy.
Yep. Yeah. I've been following all of it. Yeah.
So there are people that are saying that that democracy is cheapening it, and that anytime somebody is like trying to take control and do something like this, like it really takes away from it. And I have seen that there are times that there have been people that are trying to enter their own scripts to make it so that one person can control several Twitch accounts remotely. So like there has been pushes for people to take it over with different intents, but the way that I originally interpreted what you were doing was I had seen it as this is somebody that sees Twitch Plays Pokemon as being a negative thing for Twitch in particular.
Some people might, but I have no malicious intent. I think it's really funny, and I've been following it. And it's really funny, the democracy versus anarchy thing, especially you, if you're trying to get a future in game design. I'm sure one of the trends that you've noticed towards games recently is the trending from games being kind of these challenging things to these really casual, easily accessible, everybody wins kind of thing, right? If you've played any recent game, whether it's any of the Hold My Hands FPSs, even FPSs that people generally agree are pretty good. Far Cry 3, Bioshock Infinite, even games like Skyrim or whatever, you know, the games with infinite amount of lives that are made really easy, you know, stuff like that. I think it's kind of mirrored in the anarchy versus democracy debate, where some people want democracy because, well, it makes it easier and we can beat it and we kind of understand it better and, you know, everything kind of goes how we want it to. And a lot of other people like anarchy. And I don't know, I feel like you can see that same mirroring happening in the gaming world today, where all the games kind of tend towards these really easy, casual, kind of silly. I say silly, and I'm shitting on a lot of the gaming world, but I mean, really, that's what's happened. And then, you know, you get a game like Dark Souls that comes out that's like legitimately really difficult, and a lot of people really like Dark Souls. And then you see the argument between the Dark Souls developers, where Dark Souls 2 might be trending more towards a casual thing, where the developer was saying we might put in an easy mode, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've really liked watching the whole anarchy versus democracy thing, because I think that argument is something that's been happening for quite a while in the gaming world, and seeing it play out in like such a chaotic environment, a chaotic and unfiltered environment here, I think is really interesting.
So yes, and I appreciate all of that, and I know that like watching this as it's developing is really interesting. But I also want to address the idea of one person stepping in and kind of taking the reins. And I think that the reason that I equated that with this democracy versus anarchy thing is we were having a couple of conversations with some people that were calling in and saying, you know, hey, democracy is kind of taking away from it. And I think the end argument was just that this is only a victory. The channel is only successful because of the followership. It's the fact that we have so many people participating that makes it unique and makes it interesting. And sometimes democracy has a habit of happening mostly when there's a lull, mostly when we get stuck. And sometimes democracy kind of pushes people away because the interesting things that are happening start to die off.
Yeah, and again, just on that real fast, like, and again, you see those exact same things play out in the gaming world, where it used to be with Anarchy, and people make jokes about it. With Anarchy, we would get stuck on, what was that ledge that we got stuck on with Anarchy? For like, what, were we stuck on that?
Route 9 twice,
yeah, for so long. But now you see the second we get stuck on a ledge for even an hour, people start to throw up the democracy to get through it. And again, you see the same thing in the gaming world, where people are constantly irritated at how difficult, to go back to the Dark Souls game, this game is too hard, there should be more walkthroughs, or there should be more hand-holding, or you should have more checkpoints, etc., etc., etc. I think you see the exact same arguments play out in the gaming, in the game development world versus what's happening in real time here. I think it's really interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to equate that to this idea of, like you said, you wanted to use your followers and try to gain control of what was going on. I think at that point, it is the thing that's significant about it is that it's this giant Ouija board being driven by 80,000 people. The second somebody takes it over, it doesn't matter if they have good intent or bad intent. I think that it just loses credibility, it loses its personality, it loses its original intent. And I think that the reason that I reacted kind of strongly to your input when I saw that these things were happening was, one, I saw it as like, oh, this is somebody that thinks that Twitch Plays Pokemon is a cancer for Twitch, and I know I was wrong about that.
Uh-huh.
But in addition to that, this is somebody that's endangering the credibility of the experiment. Like the person that ran this is saying they're doing this as a social experiment, they want to see what happens. And anytime you have somebody just like coming in and stepping on it, it kind of seems as if it's taking away from the overall thing, and that's going to have a negative impact on viewership, which is going to have a negative impact on the whole experience as a the experience as a whole. And I think that even though, yes, one person has the potential to direct where the game is going, they also kind of, in this case, have the potential to push people away and the whole thing fall down. And it's kind of, that's what I was seeing. That's what I saw.
I 100% agree with what you're saying in that let me say that. Let me rephrase that. I don't agree. Actually, I completely, totally disagree with you saying, but I understand your viewpoint. No, but it's really, really interesting because I totally understand how you're saying that. Are you familiar with a game called DayZ or Eve or any other sandbox-ish?
Yes, I'm familiar with, but yes, I haven't played either one.
Okay,
of those.
well, I'm going to use DayZ as an example because it's the absolute perfect example, okay? So the cool thing about DayZ is that anything can happen in any player encounter at any point in time, right? You could go up to somebody, they could be really friendly, they could not speak your language, they could try to kill you, they could try to rob you, they could let you die to zombies. Anything can happen. As soon as you meet another player, there's absolutely, everything is on the table. Obviously, this leads to a lot of griefing and a lot of PvP in DayZ that a lot of people don't like. And there are a lot of people that complain on forums like, oh, like I hate all the PvP. This is just turning into Call of Duty 2.0. Everybody just wants to kill everybody. This is such bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And what happens is, what people fail to realize, I think, is that the reason why the original is so fucking amazingly awesome isn't because it follows any kind of certain pattern or isn't because of the cool things that happen. It's because of the potential for anything to happen. Does that make sense? So in DayZ, it's really, like in DayZ, it's really awesome to meet a group of people and for all of you to team up and to help each other and blah, blah, blah. But that's not awesome because that's the rules of the game and that's what we all like to get together and do. It's awesome because any of those people at any point in time could have killed you on sight. They could have backstabbed you. They could have just said fuck off and robbed you. They could have just ran away. Like anything can happen. And that's what makes it so fucking awesome, right? Because holy shit, like it actually turned out okay in the end. And that's what I think is interesting about the Twitch Plays Pokemon thing, or another thing that's interesting about it, is that I don't think you can really impose any kind of one thing and say, this is off limits. Like, we can't have one person step in and abuse this, or we can't have this happen here, or we can't have that happen here, because as soon as you start doing that, you kind of, I feel, and I'm actually making the same argument you are, except in the other way, that actually delegitimizes it. I think that it delegitimizes it more to say, we can't have any outside influences, versus an outside influence will destroy the experiment, because outside influences are always a real possibility in anything. Like, especially for you talking about how this could be implemented in future game design, which I think is a little bit far-fetched. But if it is, how are you going to make that incapable of being influenced from external factors, So I think that stuff like this, I'm trying not to like toot my own horn. I'm not trying to say like I'm essential to the experiment or anything like that, because I would never be that arrogant. But I'm saying that as long as the possibility for stuff like this exists and the community has enough information and time to react to it, I think that it's all a valid part in the end of the experiment itself. You know what I mean?
Sure, but I think that, and yes, okay. So instead of necessarily sabotaging Twitch Plays Pokemon, this is simply extrapolating to the next level of influencing, how it's going to eventually end up
Possibly, but
affecting the
I
world.
don't even like the word sabotage there because technically we're not really doing anything against the rules of the experiment. The rules of the experiment are any number of people in chat can input chat commands, and really that's it. Everything else is going. That's why it's such an interesting social experiment, you know? Because like, let's say the
So
point where you
so
go at no one is allowed to like command followers. Like, what about a group of people with 20 or 30 friends? Like, is that right? Or what about people posting on the subreddit? You know, all of the Helix people. Is that right? Or what about when democracy does get voted for, all the anarchy people start voting start 9 to try to grief the democracy people? Like, is that right? Like, you see how you enter like all of these gray areas when you start to say like, well, we can't have that, but we can kind of keep that even though it's kind of the same. Or like you enter all sorts of really fucked up things, right? And if people are super against anything that's going on, like me stepping in with my people, there's always the opportunity for the community to respond in whatever way they see fit, which is what happened here, right? We were able to push this really easily to the democracy side, but as soon as it started gaining traction and publicity on Twitter and Reddit, everybody stepped in and started pushing back towards the anarchy side. And now it's deeper into anarchy than it was before we even got here. So I mean, I think it's all really interesting. I don't think there are any right or wrong answers in regards to how you can approach this, assuming that you don't violate the rules of the game. And by that, I mean like going to the guy's computer and like destroying that or something weird like that.
true, and I think that yes, you have the one user that actually set this all up, and I think it was brilliant the way picking Pokemon and doing this the way that he did. But in addition to that, you also have and yes, also I want to address you took an action here. You had some followers that were executing things based on what was going on in your channel, and you did see this miraculous increase in activity, almost like blood cells attacking a virus. Like yes, something significant happened there, but there are two levels of rules. There is the rules of the one Twitch user that is broadcasting on this channel, and then Twitch itself, I think, has rules that are preventing people from interfering with each other's channels and capital. Like if you're playing a game and you have one group of users that are really significantly dedicated to one allegiance or whatever, and they're in another group's games trying to prevent that progress in that game, isn't that exactly what's happening in this case? That you have a Twitch user that's switching over to some other person's group and trying to capitalize on the popularity of that channel, and now you have a lot more usership in your own channel, but then also like you're impeding their progress as a separate Twitch user. Isn't that violating the rules of Twitch?
That was like a really loaded question. Two parts to that. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's good. Two parts to that. First of all, it's you have to talk about like what is progress. Like what are we actually doing here? Because the progress here isn't actually beating the game, right? Everybody who's on the anarchy side knows that the point isn't to beat the game. That's why one of the largest arguments against democracy has been, if we set it to democracy, it's like watching a let's play in slow motion. Tons of people have echoed that very same opinion on Twitter, on the subreddit, and the chat channel. So progress in the game isn't actually beating the game. Progress is relatively subjective, but the definition that I would give progress in this case, that I think most people would be with, is progress is the creation of entertaining content, right? The entire purpose of this, nothing is spectacular about this Pokemon run in regards to us being 43 hours in and not even getting to, what, Zapdos yet? I don't know what we're working on. So
yeah,
like
we're completely lost.
Yeah, that's not very spectacular. And nothing that's happened so far in and of itself is very entertaining. Like if we were looking at this like just as a person playing the game, like so you named you named that Pokemon Jay Leno, or like you call the guy Burgess, it's like it's not very funny, But yeah, seeing it happen with 50 to 100,000 people doing the commands, that's the creation of that content is arguably what the progress is in this game. Even if we never ever finish this game and we end up getting stuck somewhere or the computer dies and like we never come back, I think most people would still argue that this has been very entertaining. And I don't think that people would feel like cheated, like, oh, we never, maybe because the adventure didn't continue. But even though people want to see this continue, I don't think people want to see like, oh, we got to get to the Final Four and beat the game. Like if that happened in 5 hours, I don't think most people are like, oh, it's so cool that we beat it. Because like I said, progress is just the content that's being created really by 40 to 100,000 people, depending upon how many people are on the stream,
Right.
And then real fast, the second part, in regards to the Twitch rules, it starts to get a little shady there. There are two things. One is the restreaming of other content. That can get pretty shady from a DMCA standpoint, from like a copyright bullshit. The argument is usually it's okay as long as it's for educational purposes, or if you're adding significant content on top of whatever it is you're broadcasting, or if you're doing some kind of news thing. I think I would argue here that the amount of content going on top of this is pretty significant and doesn't detract from his original stream. Like, I don't think that I'm pulling viewers off of him because I'm just restreaming it like you'd be like streaming a movie or whatever. I mean, I guess if the guy wanted to like take me to court, we could get into that, but I mean, obviously it wouldn't get that far, and I don't think it's in anybody's interest for it to get that far. And the second thing is in regards to Twitch rules for rating another stream, it's actually okay to do that if the other person is okay with it. Like if I'm watching a friend stream and we all go like bother his stream or whatever, like as long as we're not being malicious or whatever, it's fine. And like I said before, I don't think anything malicious is technically taken place here.
Yeah, it's hard to define malicious.
Sure. And again, this is a really unique example too because of how the chat functions, you know? Like if this was a guy playing League of Legends or StarCraft or Warcraft or whatever and we all jumped into a stream like die, go kill yourself and just spammed his chat or whatever, like that's pretty clearly harassment. But here where like the chat is kind of like the facilitator of actual gameplay, I think that it's a little bit different there to be like, oh, like this is clearly a violation of Twitch rules. Like I think it gets a little bit shady at that point, you know?
Right. No, yeah, I agree. I just, you know, if for stepping out as a Twitch user in the first place and taking that step, I don't really want to say that I know your motivations. I'm sure that just like me, you were caught up in, wow, what does this mean? What can happen? You know, like let's play with this a little bit. But I really do think, like you said, it kind of depends on the channel owner's perspective, and you kind of set yourself up to be in a position where you're kind of at his mercy if he wants to say that you're sabotaging his stream, you know?
Sure. And I like, I think that it's nice to do this out in the open as I'm doing it, because I think that there is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Like you said, there have been tons of people copying and pasting scripts with bots. So, like, it's really hard to say, like, even before we reach this point, I think you would have to have a certain degree of naivety to actually believe that nobody has botted certain answers or certain things to happen at this point, you know? Because there are a lot of people out there who bought a ton of Twitch accounts. It's been documented in the past. Twitch acknowledges it. Other people have seen it in action. So I mean, it's not entirely unfeasible to think that some things have happened as a result of people scripting it. The only difference is I'm actually doing it publicly now, and I guess you can attach a face to, like, all the hate or whatever, or the liking or whatever, you know?
And I also want to. I've actually been trying to follow your channel and what's going on. You know, like I have Twitch Plays Pokemon open. I have your thing open. I actually tried to comment. I didn't realize that yours was a subscription room, but I noticed that somebody had mentioned that I was being a little bit hypocritical, and I see that the reason for that is here I am hosting a radio channel that has something to do with Twitch Plays Pokemon, and equating. Probably I can see that people are seeing parallels there. And I wanted to kind of step out and say what I see the difference as being. Like you mentioned, there are a lot of people that are creating a lot of really cool original content based on, you know, the things that are happening in the narrative of Twitch Plays Pokemon. People are reinterpreting it. People are trying to help other people understand. And it's crazy, like the kind of content generation that's coming out of this. And this is, I think, the difference between some people are commenting on what's happening and kind of taking the Twitch Plays Pokemon phenomenon and spreading outward the culture, and then there are some people that are kind of attacking inwards. And what I mean by attacking inwards is there are people that are setting up bots to do the start 9 thing whenever democracy happens. And you know, there are people that just have bots to just like post porn links or whatever. Like there are people that are inwardly trying to get a hold of Twitch Plays Pokemon, and I think that is a different situation. And I would compare this, you know, basically making a raid on Twitch Plays Pokemon as being like trying to make channels inward and alter the game instead of just talk about it and putting it outwards. But I don't want to. I am here simply because I enjoy Twitch Plays Pokemon. I am a big fan of where this is going, and I think that it's significant. I know that that's a very hard argument to make for something as stupid as Twitch Plays Pokemon when stuff's going on in Ukraine and all of that kind of stuff. But you know, I being on the channel with you, I really don't feel like you are maliciously trying to like offend a bunch of people. Like before you got on the phone, I said, this is a guy that's coming in and stepping on a second grader's sandcastle. You know, like it's just somebody that wants to come in and ruin somebody else's fun. But I don't see it being that way. But I also don't see it as being like you are completely like free from the potential of being you know, brought. Something's going to happen because the guy feels like you're stepping on his channel.
And that, you know what, I think that fact is the coolest thing of all. And I don't think I should be free from any kind of criticism or anything whatsoever. Or even if, you know, if Twitch steps in and does whatever, I mean, that's fine. But I mean, I think that's all really interesting. And obviously, I think that one of the coolest things about this is all of the all of the conversations that are generated or all the discussions that are generated as a result of what happened. So I mean, I'm totally cool with people criticizing me and whatnot. I think it's really interesting. Like I said earlier, I think it's really interesting that a lot of pro anarchy people are angry that I pushed it towards democracy when all of the anarchists immediately try to spam start 9 as soon as it's at democracy,
Right.
which is kind of, you could make arguments that it's similar. So I mean, I think
Yeah,
it's really
there's
interesting, and I'm fine with all the criticism and whatnot. I mean, that's great. There should be criticism. There shouldn't be any unifying opinions about this because it's so open and so chaotic and anarchy.
Well, I think for better or worse, you and your Twitch channel have kind of entered the fray and put yourself out in the open for being for helping people to try to understand what this Twitch Plays Pokemon thing is, and I can expect that you draw a lot of fire. I mean, I to this point, I don't want to say. Hey, spam this guy's inbox and tell him to F off or something. Like, that's not my opinion that I'm taking on this at all. But I really do think that you put yourself in the middle of this narrative that's developing in this culture, and obviously you're capable of running with that. I'm listening to you talk. I'm hearing where you're coming from. You're gonna get emails. You're probably gonna get another opportunity to talk about it. You're gonna see a bunch of original content with your head hanging on a pipe.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
something.
yeah. I'm sure. Definitely. With
But
Bird Jesus slaying me to death or some crazy shit like that. Yeah, definitely.
Sure, but like you said, it's part of a part of what's going on, and I imagine the guy owning the chat kind of having his finger over this big red button, but then taking a step back and being like, well, it's leaking out of the internet. People are like taking stances on this, and I was expecting somebody to eventually, go into a middle of the downtown square and say, we're gonna take over this for Helix, but really what's happening is you have an individual putting his face out there and saying, hey, I want to snuff out this character, and I think that that's legitimate, and I think that that's okay for me to do. And you might actually be the first person to incite connecting a real person to like taking a position in this world. And I don't know if that was your intent, but to the people that actually are following the narrative and want to see things develop with the Helix fossil and Bird Jesus and all this stuff, you might actually have entered into this fictional realm and this religious development.
Yeah, I mean, it's all possible. Like I said, the only reason I did it was because I was really curious what the fallout would be. It's entertaining for me, I'm sure, as much as it is for you, just to see what happens and to kind of sift through all of the data and the responses and the reactions and whatnot.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna try to let you go, but I like um I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to keep this radio thing going. This is my second day doing it. I do have like a full-time life that is not going to like let me do this every day. But obviously you are going to continue. You've got your channel. You're there. Twitch.tv/Destiny is you. People can find you. So I think you're going to continue on in this. So, I mean, best of luck to you. And I hope that it doesn't end up with your head actually literally on a pike. But welcome to the pantheon of evil in Twitch Plays Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good luck with your radio show, dude.
All right, thanks for calling, man.
Yep, thanks for having me. Bye.
All right, bye.